Gaming Today presents Cash Considerations.
Welcome to the Cash Considerations podcast. Today is Friday, January 8th. It is NFL Wildcard Weekend. We have the College Football National Championship coming up, and we are ready to talk about all of it. My name is Dave Sherapin. I am at SportsBKConsig on Twitter. Tonight with me, I have, as always, Carl Haskell. He's at Carl Haskell. Producing the show is I Am Reynolds 2305. And our special guest tonight from Cleveland. That's always my first question, but I have to qualify that tonight because we got Pittsburgh, we got Cleveland, we got a lot of stuff to talk about with this gentleman. He is at Adam Burke. He's at Skating Tripods. He's the host of ATS Radio, the lead writer at ats.io, and a contributor, a big contributor at Bang the Book. The guy's full of content. We're going to get into it with him. We're going to talk about football, maybe some other things at the end. But without further ado, Adam, thanks for staying up late with us, brother. How are you, sir?
Absolutely, man. I'm doing well. You know, given all the circumstances of Cleveland sports this week, I'm actually doing pretty well, to be honest with you.
We're going to get to that. But before we do, all right, so just the first question out of the chute always for me is, you know, where are you from? You're from Cleveland. Have you lived there your whole life?
Yes, sir. Born and raised. I've lived through it all the blizzards, all the bad weather, all the sports heartbreak. I've been here for all of it.
Okay. So, how did you get involved with sports gambling? Because we're going to get into what you do on a regular basis, but how did you get involved at the beginning? What is your first bet, or how did this all start?
Yeah, this started my sophomore year of college. My roommate had an account at, you know, one of the offshore sports books and kind of turned me on to it a little bit. And, you know, obviously I was on a ramen diet in college, ramen and cheap beer. So, you know, wasn't exactly super capitalized with the bankroll, just, you know, playing the $5 3-line parlays across the NFL card, the college basketball card, all that. And, you know, it was just something that I guess sort of blossomed from there, and especially on the content creation side, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But, you know, I definitely had my share going, broke a few times, tapping into those student loans a little bit. But, you know, I'm sure everyone's kind of got a story like that.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Akron. Go Zips. One of two female mascots in Division I.
Wow. All right. So you saw a lot of losing, like with your pro teams, like, and the college teams, like the Zips, were they good at anything while you were there?
So they won the MAC championship in 2005 for college football. Basketball team was okay. The soccer team is actually excellent at Akron. Okay. They've been national champions a few times. They've had a couple of guys go and play in the MLS as well. So
nice.
It's a soccer school, I guess,
okay.
to put it quite honestly. The baseball team was there, and then they kind of folded for a while. And then former major leaguer Chris Sabo brought him back. He's the manager now. Yeah.
Nice. So in all this time, you know, where you're at now, have you been to Vegas? Do you have a Vegas gambling story or any favorite trips that you had coming to Vegas at all?
Oh man, every trip to Vegas has been one of my favorites. I love that place. You know, my favorite trip's going to be meeting you the next time that I come out there. As far as gambling stories, I mean, the ones that I can remember, not a whole lot that really stand out. No big scores or anything like that. But you know, I love everything about the town, man. And you know, to see what's kind of happened here throughout the pandemic and how, you know, so many casinos are hurting. So many of the casino employees are hurting. You know, I try to go out there 2 to 3 times a year. I'm going to try to do that again this year. And just, you know, it's not a second home for me, but it kind of feels that way with all the friends I have out there and, you know, some of the people I catch up with. So I can't wait to get back. I haven't been there since September. And, you know, hopefully this next trip will be one where I got a big story to tell for the next time I'm on the Cash Considerations podcast.
Oh man, let's hope so. We're definitely going to hook it up. There's no doubt about that. We'll get together and we'll just, if nothing else, just sit and shoot the shit and have a couple
shenanigans.
Yeah, that's the usual stuff. So that's the plan. So this ATS.io, tell everyone a little bit about what you're doing there in creating this content. You host the show, you do all these things. What is ATS.io and what are you doing with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great resource for handicappers. I think that we've got a very good staff, a lot of people that write quality content, and, myself included. I do a podcast Monday through Friday, talking with some professional handicappers, talking with some other people in the industry. Just sort of what I want to do is I've always had this strong passion for helping people handicap for themselves. I think a lot of shows out there are just, here's what we're picking tonight and here's why. And to me, it's more about, how people should break down games, how people should look at games, and, sort of look for different edges that are out there. I try to keep it more educational and conversational than just, spoon feeding people all the picks that we like for the week or the picks that we like for that night, anything like that. I've always been, sort of in that media space. I majored in mass media communications at Akron, double major. My second major was history. So always been a writer, always been a content creator, and a background in history like that. It forces you in your writing to make a case for something and then try to prove it. And I think that's something that's just translated really easily to the sports betting space. So I do content like that over at ats.io. Originally the podcast was through bangthebook.com, but I still do a lot of writing over there. It's just, again, like I said, to me, I think it's, intelligent handicapping and betting conversation that, it sort of encourages people to look for a lot of these things for themselves. And I think that's really important now with so many novice bettors out there and so much mainstream information that, may lead people in the wrong direction.
That's the funny thing. So like my next question is, where is this business headed? Because you and I have had some good conversations about where we're at in the explosion of people kind of joining in the party where we've all been and talking about betting and talking about things. And you got people coming on. I mean, I don't know. I have Twitter followers. They never lose. Nobody ever loses on Twitter, just so you guys know. Like, I got more people following me and all this stuff. Like, they are 80%ers, winners, and they got games every night. Like, it's crazy what's going on. Where do you think all of this is headed with you've been doing it now for a while and you're still talking to a lot of people in the business? I'm with you. I'd rather teach someone how to fish than just feed them dinner and feed them fish. Like, that's the way I've always kind of been too. Where do you think this is all headed?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the explosion and, you start talking about some of these bigger markets that may come into play where, New York was one that was in the news over the last week where, I mean, that's just a huge market that could come into play for online and mobile. Florida at some point will. I'm sure California at some point will. You have every sports outlet in the country now embracing sports betting and sports gambling to so much higher of a degree. There's a lot of free content out there. There are a lot of people that, are analysts of sport that are trying to apply it to betting, and they don't understand the nuances of the market. They don't understand the value of a number. They don't understand following the progression of a line, for the NFL throughout the week, for the NBA, the overnights, stuff like that. I just think that, a lot of people are going to wind up going broke just from blindly following information because they don't really know what to do. They don't really know, that not every game has betting value. They don't really know that, these games where you see these massive bets of, 7 figures doesn't mean that somebody knows a lot of information, doesn't mean it's the right side, but people are going to look at it and go, hey, somebody bet 1.3 million on this game. That's got to be the right side. And they'll go bet, $100, couple $100, whatever. And then they'll be refilling their account in a week. So I don't really love the way the industry is going. I mean, certainly, more availability is good for somebody like me in the content creation sphere. But I do worry about, just sort of the risk of ruin for a lot of people out there that are going to go into this and say, well, I know a lot about sports and I win my fantasy league. And it's a hell of a lot different, man. You and I know it's not even in the same fucking ballpark.
Right. It is not. And, like, how many articles are you cranking out a week? Or just on average, like between the game previews and the other stuff you do, like you're cranking out stuff on what level, just so people really understand how deep you are in the game?
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, there's a lot to talk about. There's always something new. There's always something to talk about with every individual game. I mean, in the past, I'd be, upwards of 40 to 50 articles a week. Now I've kind of scaled that back a little bit, into the 20 to 25, sometimes 30 range, depending on, what time of the year it is. But, again, I mean, there's so much demand, out there for content that, a lot of times I'll cover games, and I don't know if we'll get to this point or not, but, handicapping for content is an altogether different animal because, there are 6 NFL games this weekend. I wrote previews for all 6, over at Bang the Book. I don't like all 6 games.
Yep.
I don't like, the side of the total in all 6 of those games.
Yep.
But when you write up a preview on it, you have to put a pick in there,
Right.
So that's something that's kind of a challenge to me is, I may have a college basketball game I feel there's an edge in the Atlantic Sun or in the, MEAC or the Sun Belt or whatever. People only want Duke and North Carolina or Purdue and Indiana. So, it makes it a real challenge for me to, get a lot of content out there where I have strong opinions on things. But that's where the volume thing kind of comes into play of there's always something out there for somebody. So I try to cover as much of it as I can.
Do you have something particular that either is your best thing or your favorite thing to cover or write about as far as this stuff goes, the sports gambling?
Major League Baseball for me. I've always been a huge Indians fan. I appreciate you wearing the jersey here.
Here it is.
In honor of me on today's show. But, I've been really invested in sabermetrics, the advanced statistics of baseball for upwards of 15 years now. Around the same time that I kind of got into betting was when I was looking at sabermetrics and some of the advanced numbers that are out there, because I always wanted to know why the Indians make the decisions that they do. As a small market team, they kind of have that island of misfit toys approach of getting platoon guys and, guys that they feel are undervalued by the market and all of that. So I wanted to find out why. And for the longest time, a sabermetric style of handicapping was really helpful. Now a lot of people, specifically on the quant side, do that sabermetric handicapping. So it's still a sport where I feel like I can find edges, and certainly a sport that I feel like I know more intimately than a lot of the other sports that are out there. So definitely baseball is one that's at the top of the list for me. And what I try to do a little bit more here is the NHL, because I think there are good betting opportunities with that. Where I played hockey growing up. I played hockey in high school. I know you're a hockey guy as well.
Yep.
I think there's some good opportunities to be had in that market. And that's one where I've been really trying to learn over the last few years a lot more about those advanced metrics, because everybody knows the NFL and college football. I got to find something to try and separate myself, both from a content standpoint and then, of course, from my personal handicapping.
Absolutely. We're all kind of in that same boat. We're all looking at the same stuff. And it's crazy when you see the markets that everybody's looking at the same stuff now too. So there's not a lot of variance. 10 articles of the first game tomorrow, Indianapolis and Buffalo. 9 have Buffalo. I mean, that's just it's the way it goes. I mean, it's hard to keep coming up with stuff. But when only 2 people are looking at Vancouver and San Jose on a Tuesday night, and you can come up with something. It's a little bit different. All right, last question before we get to the football. How hard is it to be a Cleveland sports fan? Like, seriously, like what you have had to endure. Someone asked me what city is the most like hardest fan to be a fan of. And I said, well, it has to be Cleveland. And they threw Detroit at me because Detroit but Detroit has championships, like a bunch of them. The Pistons were good once. The Red Wings were good forever. The Tigers even won a World Series. Like, Cleveland's got one that I can think of. That the Cavs finally got it done when LeBron came home. How hard is it to be a Cleveland fan?
Hard. It is very hard. I mean, it's one of those things where you almost wear it as a badge of honor around here.
Okay.
All of us just sort of, we all have the same scars, especially anybody that's, around my age, kind of in that, 30 to 40 range of the Indians were great when we were growing up.
Oh, awesome.
And still never won a title. Lost in the World Series twice. They were, effectively an out away in 97. Then in 2007, they would have beaten the Rockies in the World Series, but they blow the 3-1 lead to Boston in the ALCS. Obviously 2016, where, I was a season ticket holder that year. I was at every playoff game. So we all wear those, I'm a little bit too young for the 80s moments with the Browns, Biner and the drive and, Red Right 88 and all those things. But, when I was growing up, the Browns were gone. I mean, there were 5 years, of really my formative years where the Browns weren't there. So, the Cavs had a few decent years in the 90s. And the thing about it, too, is, everybody loved LeBron for obvious reasons. I mean, to me, he's the best player of all time. And I hope that's not a confrontational statement on this show. But, the Cavs, it's a title we're all happy to have. But a Browns Super Bowl or an Indians World Series would trump that 15, 20 times over.
Easy.
And, the Browns haven't really come close. The Indians have come close multiple times. But, we're talking about a city that's got one championship basically since the, 60s and 70s, where you had the Cleveland Barons, you had the Cleveland Crusaders who were very good. Browns won in 64. Other than that, you got LeBron and that one title that they got over the Warriors, and we'll cling to it forever. But this is why we claim in the Cleveland area the Buckeyes. We at least have Stipe Miocic. At least there's that. But, it's just it's hard, man. It really, truly is. It's very, very difficult. And yet you still, at the start of a season, find a way to be optimistic and play this best case scenario game. I don't know if we're just gluttons for punishment or what, but it's an annual cycle, man. Prior to every season, this will be the one, and then it isn't.
All right.
Adam, I got to say that was my childhood that you just described, right? Up until 20 years ago, that's exactly what it was like up here, too. The Celtics would win every couple of years or so like that, but we didn't have anything else. The Red Sox went 86 years. The Patriots went forever without winning. And then we got one lucky break in a game in the snow, and all of a sudden everything just started falling the right way. We'd get a call, we'd get a good kick in the snow, we'd get a win in the World Series, and the floodgates just opened. So, that's all you got to root for is that one thing that just breaks the ice, man. And all of a sudden, you're the city of champions.
Yeah. What is it? Drafting a 6th round quarterback out of Michigan, right? That's the secret to success.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Anyone that's over 30 doesn't even, they don't understand that. At least over 30 in New England, you understand you've been through a little bit of stuff. And these 28-year-olds that think everything went through Boston between the Celtics and the Red Sox, or Red Sox Nation now, and everything else. I don't want to hear. This is the first Sunday or weekend in the playoffs in 20 years that the Patriots aren't involved. And Carl found a fucking way to get the New England sports in there.
I told you I'd find a way.
He did. That's it. All right. Let's get to some football, boys. That's Adam Burke. He's at Skating Tripods on Twitter, the host of ATS Radio, the lead writer at ATS.io, and a contributor at Bang the Book. Understatement, contributor at Bang the Book, cranking out 40 to 50, or 20 to 30 articles a week. You can find that he's a great writer, and he's got a lot of stuff to offer. So before we move on, I just want to mention that the Digital Gaming Today subscription is $185 a year. With that, you get a digital subscription. You get the Gaming Today in digital form. You get the Don Best feeds from 6 different sports books. It's all there. Just go to gamingtoday.com/register. All right, rest of the show, it's at GT Cash Consider. Follow the show on Twitter. Carl has managed it now for weeks. We've grown the Twitter following. We got a goal in mind. We got to get going on that. So follow the show. We're going to do a leave a review as well at some point. I'm coming up with something in my head. We're going to give someone a free bet maybe, or some kind of stuff, something on the Super Bowl. I'm going to try to come up with something. But if you go on and leave a review, it will be noted, and you will be entered into something that we're going to either do a free prop bet or a free bet side or total on the Super Bowl. I haven't figured it out yet. He's at Carl Haskell, Haskall, and Reynolds is I am Reynolds 2305, and I am Sports BK Consig for Sportsbook Consigliere. All right, it's NFL six-pack wild card weekend. We're going to go through that. We're going to mention the NCAA championship as well with Adam's kind of adopted team of the Ohio State Buckeyes, and they get to play Alabama. We'll discuss that. I wanted to mention something else for my boy Sean, who listens to the show, faithful listener of the show. He came up with an idea. What is the best NFL coaching job out there right now? So we're going to kind of get our opinion because, we're three guys that watch football, follow football, may have an opinion. So we'll get to that. And then we'll get to the take a minute segment at the end, and we'll be out of here. So we're on the clock. Let's get it started, fellas. It's going to be side total, laying or taking, and you can lean, you can pass, you can do whatever you want. I just want an opinion. Now, I know Adam's got them because he wrote them. Carl always has them because he's just up there hanging out in New Hampshire, nothing else to do now, no Patriot stuff, just getting ready for hockey season.
That's right.
We got another hockey guy here, Carl. This is going to be
That's
great.
beautiful.
We're going to just follow him, and we're going to be able to shoot him texts and all kind of things for hockey as well. So what position did you play, by the way, Adam, when you played hockey?
I was a defenseman, mostly because I didn't like chasing the puck up the ice. So I just kind of be a, stay-at-home defenseman, block a lot of shots, and hit some people in the corners.
Did you like to hit the guys in the front of the net, in the back, lower back? Were you a cross-check guy hitting the wingers or centers in front of the net?
Depends on who we were playing. If I didn't like that team or I didn't like that guy, I'd do it all the time.
God damn it. That was me. I was the guy standing there taking those shots all the time. I guess nobody liked me because I took them every goddamn game. I wanted to get you guys all the time. All right, here we go. NFL. We're just going to go down in order, fellas. Top to bottom in chronological order. The first game of the weekend is tomorrow. For those of you listening to the show, this is going to drop late Friday night, early Saturday morning. So get to this before the game kicks. But it's the Colts and the Bills. Consensus line is pretty much now Bills minus 6.5. The total's 51.5. Just off the opener of 52. I'll start. I don't know what to do with this game. I really don't. I mean, I don't want to get in front of Buffalo. They've covered, other than the game where Murray threw the Hail Murray, they've covered every game. I mean, they just keep rolling. And offensively, they're ridiculous right now. I don't know. I think the total's going to go over. The only way it doesn't is if Jonathan Taylor runs the ball and they keep Buffalo off the field. That's the way this game stays under. I think the best lean for me is over in the game. Adam, what did you think or what did you write this week about this game?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm laying here with Buffalo. You look at their 3 losses, and you mentioned one's on a Hail Mary, and the other 2 came in games where Josh Allen was not healthy. He had the shoulder injury. They struggled a little bit. I mean, this is a team, they are playing at a ridiculously high level right now. I think I'm more comfortable laying the first half with Buffalo. I think they've covered like 11 first halves in a row or something like that. Yep. But I'll lay the 6.5, and I lean over with you as well because I think Buffalo does play in front here or play from in front, and it makes Indianapolis have to throw the football. Mm-hmm. And that could be an adventure in both ways. I mean, Rivers could move him up and down the field, or he could leave Buffalo with some short fields. So lay in with Buffalo and lean in over.
Carl, how do you feel about this one?
Yeah, a few things. Buffalo not only 7-1 at home, but 6-2 against the number at home. That's pretty good. Colts didn't play anybody all year long. They had the easiest schedule in the NFL this season. I don't know how they make the playoffs and win a game. I don't know how they stay within 7 points in this game. Like you just said about the Hail Mary, that's 9 in a row they would have won if not for that one play. Dome team on the road in the winter. This is Buffalo by 10, 14.
Okay.
Probably
over 10.
Let me also tell you this. So since Cleveland never had an NHL team when I was growing up, and the Blue Jackets were, I was about 14 when the Blue Jackets started, the Sabres are my NHL team.
Oh.
And they also have a nice past of playoff heartbreak. So I can't even get away from it getting outside of Cleveland.
At some point, you just it's not that far away, just like the Penguins. My goodness, the Penguins, they found one championship in the 90s, and then they're pretty good. They got good players. Like, just come over. There's a lot of room for the Penguins. You could come over anytime.
I must hate myself. I don't know.
All right, Rams-Seahawks is game number 2. First game for the NFC on Saturday. man, boys, this line has come down. You want to talk about line movement and knowing it and understanding it. This line opened at 5, Seahawks -5, 42.5. It's still 42.5, so 42's out there now. It's down to 3. Carl, we'll start with you this time. What do you feel about this game?
So this is the one. There's 2 this week that I'm up in the air on and not sure what to do with, and this is one of them. If it's a regular season, Seattle's won their last 10 playoff games at home. Big difference playing in front of an empty stadium, though. I really just don't know which way to go, especially not knowing how Goff's thumb is going to be. Is he going to be able to throw the ball? They're saying he's practicing, but is he really practicing? Can he throw the ball downfield? I think I'm probably going to stay away from this altogether.
Okay. Adam, what do you think about this one? It's a tough matchup.
It is. Real tough matchup. North of 3, I mean, I'm taking with the Rams 3.5 or anything higher than that. Now that it's down to 3, though, I mean, it's tough to like Seattle. It's tough to like the Rams now with the lost line value. As low as this total is, I mean, I'm thinking under here in this one. Russell Wilson in the second half of the year has not been great. Not nearly as explosive in the passing game. I think he's down about 2.5 adjusted net yards per pass attempt in the second half of the year compared to the first half. So just not as many big plays. He had 28 touchdown passes in the first 8 games. I think it's 12 in the last 8. So
Ooh.
I don't think Seattle's offense is really firing on all cylinders. Rams have a great defense. I don't like Goff. Low total, but I think I got to go under here.
Yeah, I was down at the Westgate last week on Sunday when the lines came out, and I actually bet under 45. So it was the first number that I saw, and I was like, oh, wow, that seems a little bit high, and it's come down, and now it's 42. So I got one of those great closing line value beats. It's going to be probably 60 points scored. Russ will get, 40 himself. It'll go flying over because I got a good number, and I got the under. I'm with you, though. I think this is an ugly game, and I think anything – it's a field goal game. So anything north of a field goal, I'm taking as well. I've been on the Rams. I don't care who's playing quarterback. In fact, it might not be such a bad thing to not have Goff playing if he's getting the reps. The other guy's getting the reps. If he's getting the reps all week and he's going to start and going to play, I trust McVay to put him in a position to kind of keep it close to the vest, don't turn the ball over, let the defense get it done. We may have to win this thing 17-14, but we're going to win the game. That's the way I was thinking. So we shall see. The next game, the other NFC game on Saturday, has Tampa Bay going to Washington, the football team. See, Carl, I could do
Nice
it.
job.
I did it. Thank
Nice
you for the
job.
reminder. The Bucks opened 7 in some places, immediately shot up to as high as 8.5. Current line is -8. 46 was the first total. It's down to 44.5. In some places you might find 45. I'll start. I like Washington. I don't know how they're going to score. I've done a bunch of shows this week. I've talked about it. I have no idea how they're going to score. I just think they're going to score enough to stay within the number. Do I think they can beat Tampa? Only if Brady has one of the worst games that he's had in a long time. That's for sure. Could that happen? If it's cold and he's rickety and he's 43, yes, it could. So I get to have a team plus 8.5 points that I think can win the game. That's who I got. Do I think? I mean, on Monday or on Sunday, DM me at SportsBCakeAndSig. Send me something on Twitter. I don't know shit. That's fine. That's who I got. I'm taking Washington. I'm going to save Carl for last. Adam, what do you think about this game?
Yeah, I'm taking Washington here too. I just, another thing about this game, if Tampa Bay gets up and they're up, maybe a couple scores at halftime, something like that, they're going to try and run this clock and get the hell out of there. They don't want Brady getting hit, with that Washington pass rush. And Washington gets pressure with, their base 4. I mean, they can sit back in coverage and keep everything in front of them, not give up a bunch of big plays. Low scoring expectation in this game with the total coming down. I'll take more than a touchdown with Washington. I don't necessarily love that Taylor Heineke might start and might play the majority of the game.
I know.
But, I mean, and, right now, as of, the time we're recording this, I got to take Washington, and I'm going to wait and see if the line gets a little bit better to, take another piece of the football team.
Yeah, I said last week that Washington football team will beat Tampa. And actually, I gave you the line last week, and I said 7.5 was the number, which is what it came in a lot of places. So I was looking ahead to this game. And Carl, it's not hating on Brady. It's not at all. I mean, I talked to Sammy P this week. He wrote a nice article that, we talked about the Tom Brady tax where everybody bets him. And like you lived it. You got to see the whole thing in New England.
Yep.
What are you going to tell me that's going to happen in this game?
Well, I think you said it earlier. I don't know how Washington's going to score.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to score. Realistically, I think Tampa's good for high 20s, low 30s.
Wow.
So it's only, 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, right? It's 27 points.
26.5 is the total, team total at DraftKings right now.
Sure. So Tampa scores 27. I don't know how Washington scores 19 points.
17.5 is their total. Would you bet over or under Washington's team total, 17.5?
Oh, that's probably a good number. I might even go on. It's probably 17 is where I would land. So I'd go under.
Okay.
But I'm going to tell you one thing that scares me about this game. Tampa Bay was 1-5 against teams that made the playoffs. They beat Green Bay. They lost to New Orleans twice. They lost to the Bears, the Rams, in Kansas City.
Oh, that's a hard schedule, though. Those are all really good teams. Not just playoff teams. Those are really good teams.
So I already told your buddy Ray earlier in the week, I'm going with Tampa Bay minus the points.
Fair enough. Okay. We shall see. I'm looking forward to watching that game, as much of an ugly game as it may be, and I really like the under as well. I just want to see what they do, because if they win, they're going to Green Bay, most likely, because I don't think the Bears are beating the Saints. Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. All right, let's move on to Sunday. Ravens, Titans. First thing Sunday morning, 10 o'clock West Coast time, 1 o'clock where you guys live back east. The Ravens opened minus 4.5 in a lot of places, 4.5. Right before the show, I write down the current lines. It's -3, fellas. 54.5 is the total pretty much. You see some 55s. Adam, I'm going to let you kick this one off. What are you looking at with this game? Because I think there's going to be a lot to look at.
Yeah, this is probably the highest variance game of the weekend, I think. Certainly the highest variance game of Sunday. Maybe you could make a case for Colts-Bills. I feel like I'm on an island here. I kind of like Baltimore. I mean, it's 3 with a little bit of extra juice. I'd rather have that than 3.5 here in this one. I know that Baltimore lost the regular season game. I know that Baltimore lost the playoff game last year. But last year in the playoff game, Lamar Jackson and most of the key personnel had 2 weeks off prior. They rested everybody in week 17, then had the bye week. They looked disjointed and still had 530 yards against Tennessee in last year's game. And they were effectively -7 in turnover margin. They had 3 turnovers and they were 0 for 4 on 4th down. So I don't think that happens again. I don't think Tennessee's defense gets off the field much in this game. I like Baltimore. I think Harbaugh is a better head coach than Vrabel. I think that, the way Baltimore is playing coming into the playoffs, they look, a little bit better than Tennessee does right now. Give me Baltimore. I know I'm on an island, but I also think the over is probably in play here too, because I don't know how much these two defenses get off the field.
Carl, how do you follow that breakdown right there?
Yeah, so it's definitely over. This could be 65, and I'd still probably take the over. There's going to be a lot of points scored, not a lot of punting going on in this game. Those guys will probably get the day off. Both teams are looking pretty good. Baltimore, Jackson has just been running around like crazy, but they haven't played anybody. The last 5 weeks between the two teams, they've played one playoff team, and they've played a bunch of garbage. So that's why the teams, I think, are looking so good. I'm up in the air, but like Adam just said, I'm leaning Baltimore. I took them as a dark horse last week to make it to the Super Bowl. They're still my dark horse. I think if anybody can beat Kansas City, it's probably going to be them, or Buffalo, obviously. But I'm going to go with Baltimore tonight in this one.
So their team total is 29.5, the Ravens, which is also the highest team total, tied with the Bills this weekend of all the games. I don't know how Tennessee's going to stop them. Really, but I don't know if Baltimore is going to stop Tennessee running the ball. I think Henry's going to have a big game. I like the over as well, but it scares me because all of us in the know or around this, no one, not one person has said this is going to go under. Not one that I've talked to. And as people I respect, as well as, just anyone on the street. So I'm a little hesitant with that. I don't know who's going to win. Taking the points more than a field goal, I like Tennessee. I don't want to bring up a bad memory, Adam, but this feels like it's going to look like the Monday night game a few weeks ago where Cleveland was able to run the ball all over Baltimore, but they couldn't stop them. It was going to fall 3 until they started that pitch bullshit back and back and back and back, and the game fell 5, which is incredible if you had a Browns +3 ticket. Anyhow, that's the way I see the way this game playing out. I just think it's going to be a score fest. Last team with the ball, Sunday morning kicking off. It's going to be fun game to watch. Now we go to the next game.
Well, real quick to your point, everybody talking over. We all talked about the over. Everybody betting the over. And you look for context clues in this line, the total's barely moved. I mean, that scares the hell out of me. Yeah. That somehow this ends up being like a 20-17, snooze fest.
Right.
It's always concerning when the entire world is on one side and it doesn't move.
Yep.
So that scares me a lot.
Well, in context, when you're in the book and you're working, no big money player, especially early in the week, goes to bet over 55 ever. Like 51 is the number that they look at if they're going to play anything over in the 50s. Once it gets to 52, you hold them off. They're looking to play the under. The thing, we talk about context, the total hasn't moved under either, which means that a lot of the sharp guys, the bad guys, they're not touching this thing under yet either. So if it don't move by Saturday night, it ain't moving down. So, it's that you can always put that on pause, yes, but go, well, I ain't playing under either. So maybe the number's good. That's the way you kind of look at it. The next game's way different than this game. The Bears are playing the Saints. My goodness, it's 10. 47's the total. For goodness sakes, guys. All right, I wrote the team totals down for all the teams because I had to see what the Bears was because I made it 14.5. It's 17.5, the same number that the Washington football team is. I don't think there's a chance in hell the Bears scores more than 17 points in this game. I think they're going to turn the ball over. I think the Saints are going to really – you saw it last week what happened to the Bears when they got down against Green Bay. They start forcing things, turn the ball over, goes the other way. You got not Rodgers this week, but you got Breeze operating. Kamara got to play because the game's on Sunday and not on Saturday. They're going to feed him. I think the team total for the Saints is 29.5 as well. I think they go over. I think they cover the spread. I wouldn't touch the Bears. I don't know what number I would need, but I think it's at least 13.5 or 14. Carl, anything with this game, side total that you really like?
Yeah, I like the over because I think New Orleans is going to score a lot of points. So,
wow, okay.
The Bears may not really help them, but I can see New Orleans putting up 35, and then you only need 13 from the Bears, which is probably the right number for them. A touchdown and a couple of field goals,
right?
That's going to be it. So I like the over. I like New Orleans.
Okay. All right, Adam, what'd you write up about this one? Because this one might have been a little bit tough to find some context to write about, like that Bears offense.
Yeah, it's a tough one. And honestly, it's the least interesting game of the weekend for me, I think, too. Because, like you said, I think the outcome is pretty well defined in this game. The Saints will win. It's a matter of by how many points they win. And like you said, if you think that New Orleans can get into the low 30s, then they probably cover this number. So that's sort of what it is to me. A lot of times I'll ask myself, and it's usually on the other side. Usually I'll ask, how many points do I need the dog to score to cover this number? Here, right. It's how many points do I need the favorite to score? And if you think New Orleans gets, 31, 34, something like that, then they're covering this number. And, to Carl's point, then you probably look at the over for this game too, because if New Orleans is going to get up into that 34, 35 range, You don't need a ton from Chicago. Garbage time could be a factor. And Trubisky, if I remember correctly, has put up great garbage time numbers over the course of his career and this year too. So, I guess I lean New Orleans just because I don't trust Chicago at all.
Okay. All right. That'll be one for sure to keep an eye on. I kind of like Saints first half in that one as well. That's one of those ones where I'm not really comfortable laying that big number maybe for the game, but first half play and definitely team total under for the Bears, I think is the play of the week. All right. We got to do it. It's the last game. I got the Cleveland shirt on. There it is right there for the YouTube feed. But I have the Steeler hat on. I'll turn it forward for this one because my man Adam has the Browns shirt on. It's Pittsburgh at home against the Browns. We got a great story to tell from the last time, 18 years ago, when the Browns played the Steelers in the playoffs. Adam, where were you, and what do you remember from it? And then what do you think is going to happen this weekend?
Yeah, like I was telling you via text before we started recording, like it's one of those seminal moments where you just know where you were because the Browns never make the playoffs. So it's very easy to remember what you were doing and, all that. I was at a bar in a Cleveland suburb of Parma called the Fox and Hound. And it was my sophomore year of high school. My buddy and I had, commandeered a pool table. I think it was like $8 an hour or something like that, watching the game. Big first half lead and then just the outright disaster in the second half. The very Cleveland, kind of thing. But yeah, it's, and I'll remember watching this one at home because Ohio has a 10 p.m. bar curfew. So I can't even go drown my sorrows in the bar, past halftime. But, yeah, I remember that from my sophomore year of high school that, who I was with, what we were doing, and just sort of the way the game played out. And I don't know, hopefully I don't have to go 18 years between playoff berths again.
Can your boys win this game or not?
Oh, man. Because I'm from Cleveland? No. But, the more I've kind of thought about this game, throughout the week, I mean, I took a piece of Pittsburgh minus 4.5 early in the week as the news was breaking about Stefanski. And, there was always the chance that there would be additional positives or contact tracing or, whatever else. So I grabbed the 4.5. Now that it's at 6, I like Cleveland here, plus the 6. I don't know if they can win the game, but I don't think Pittsburgh's very good. No offense to you. I know the defense is good. It's a below average offense, a well below average offense. I wouldn't expect them to win by margin in this game. I hope they do if the Browns are going to lose, just simply because I want to fade the hell out of Pittsburgh next week.
Yep.
But I can't take them laying 6 here. They don't win by margin over anybody.
Carl, give it to me straight. Come on, give it to me. I know you want to. Give it to me.
I like the Steelers.
You what?
I like the Steelers.
Why?
Why? Because I've been saying since I've been on the show, the Browns aren't good. The Steelers aren't that good either, but they're better than the Browns are. The Browns really haven't beat anybody. They really haven't.
Okay.
They played a bunch of garbage for the last 8 weeks. I mean, the best team they played was Baltimore, and they lost. They lost to the Jets 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah,
to be fair, they had no wide receivers in that game, and they were missing the left side of their offensive line.
Yeah. Plus, there's been a lot of impact, I think, too, for the teams that miss time during the week with COVID issues. There's some impact there. When you're coaching your guys remotely 2 days before your first playoff game, and what's it been, 93 years or something. No, I just, Pittsburgh hasn't looked good, so I like Pittsburgh and probably by a touchdown, and definitely the under.
Yeah. Someone asked me today, why isn't this line 8.5 now? Because you take away Stefanski, who calls the plays. You got all these guys missing. They can't even go to the facility. They're doing this on Zoom, but they're doing it with talking about plays and who knows what, who's watching what. Like, why isn't this up? Well, you know why? Because the books opened this thing 3.5, and it was solid. I laid it right away. I was down at the West guys, 3.5. Wow, that's a little light. So I laid the 3.5. It went up to 4.5. You were on top of it, Adam, with the news, and you played it. And now you can't just go on air or information to 8.5 to try to defend against the teasers, because now you middle yourself. Because if the game falls 7, which it very well could fall 7, it could fall 4, the Browns could win the game. I mean, that's the reality of it. This is no shoo-in for the Steelers. Like, anything is possible in this game. So you can't just move the line. Now, will it move when you guys listen to this show and when you watch Sunday night what happens? This is the last game of the weekend. The money line parlays could stack up, like, significantly. And you're sitting in the book going, holy shit, this thing is going to be a $500,000 decision because nobody's betting the other side. We got to get some Cleveland bets. So you're going to see that happen late. They're not going to do it now. Nobody wants to open that up now. You look across the screen, they're all painted 6s. If it was me, I would have already moved it to 7 just to put the bat signal out and say, hey, bad guys, you want a piece of 7? Let me know, because I don't know where it's going to end up. It's very interesting. Adam, do you think this line closes 7 or higher, or are we staying below 7 by kick?
No, I think it stays 6, maybe even goes to 5.5, so long as there are no more positive tests for the Browns. I mean, if they have, the current complement of players that they're supposed to have, I know it wasn't pretty in week 17. I mean, it wasn't pretty at all. But the one positive is they just played this team. And everybody on the team knows the Steelers. Yep. Maybe they have a new coaching staff and all that, but there's at least familiarity here to the point where if they were playing Buffalo or somebody like that, Buffalo would run them off the damn field because they just wouldn't be prepared for that onslaught. With Pittsburgh, they know what to expect. I think they can hang around. I think if we find out that nobody else is positive going into Sunday, I wouldn't be surprised if a little bit of sharp money comes back in on Cleveland and bumps it, maybe 6 minus 15 or something like that. Maybe a rogue 5.5.
Yep. I mean, that may actually happen. I didn't really consider that. I figured this line to close at 6 or touch 7. But you may be right because, listen, the Steelers can't run the ball. They stink running the ball. Everybody knows it. They know it. So how much, if you have to keep getting first downs and keep moving the ball passing when you're up, and everyone knows you're still going to do it because you try to run on first down, you get a yard, now you're in long situations, 2nd and 3rd. They can't get off the field, or they'll keep giving Cleveland opportunities. So I don't know. I really hope the Steelers win because Carl's right. Next week, if they go to Buffalo, they are an auto fade, no doubt. All right, that's the pro stuff. Let's get to the national championship, the college football national championship. It is Bama, and they are playing Ohio State. Line's been up now for a while. 7, 7.5, now 8. I've heard a lot of discussion both sides. I'm going to let our guest Adam first. Did you dive into this game deep? Do you have anything that really stuck out to you? Because I mean, again, COVID has wrecked all of stuff. It's just different. Everything's different. They're playing this game with a limited crowd, and Ohio State housed Clemson. They housed them. What do you see, or what did you concentrate on when you wrote about this or talked about this week?
I think it's really hard because we don't know how hurt Justin Fields is.
We don't.
And if the rumors about Ohio State having COVID issues are true, we don't know who's going to be in and who's going to be out. And even for the semifinal game against Clemson, they didn't announce who was out due to COVID until pretty much a couple of hours before the game. Wound up not being too many guys of great consequence, but they were missing their left guard, Harry Miller. So this is a game Ohio State needs everybody. They need all of their weapons at Justin Fields' disposal. They need Fields to be healthy. I can't do anything with this game until Monday. And I'm not necessarily worried about, getting the best of the number I can or where the number is going to go, anything like that. I need all of the information. Really, I need the prop bets to be posted because that's the way to attack this game. But that's the thing. There are so many questions about Ohio State that we just don't know the answers to. The one thing that we do know, though, is that teams with an offense moved it on Alabama. I mean, Georgia really didn't because it was still Stetson Bennett at the time. Maybe with JT Daniels, it's different. Florida moved it. Ole Miss moved it. A&M struggled to move it, but Ohio State's a different kind of offense than Texas A&M is. So, I mean, as ridiculous as it sounds, I mean, the over is what, in the 75 range for this game?
75.5.
There's no way in hell I could play the under. Not a chance. I know it's a historic outlier and a huge – this thing could be, 48 to 45, and it's not going to shock me in the least. Correct. So I'm waiting on all the information to come out. The one thing I will say is I thought 7 or 7.5 was a weird opening number because nobody has Clemson and Alabama as a pick'em. I had Alabama like minus 4.5 going into the playoff if they beat Clemson in the title game. And Fields is hurt. So I agree with this line moving up. I had it more like 11.5 going into the playoff. You give Ohio State some credit, but 7.5 was definitely too cheap on this game, I think. 8.5, 9 seems a lot fairer to me.
The look ahead before the games were played was 10, actually. A couple of the books that I saw, Alabama minus 10, and it was anywhere between 4.5 and 6 if it was Bama Clemson. So the line, it was adjusted because what Ohio State did. But like Carl, when you're looking at this game, do you see anything that jumps out to you based on the information that we have right now?
Yeah, you're not watching this game for defense. There's going to be a lot of points scored. This is going to be like a pinball machine. It really is. 75.5. I can't believe that 75.5 is too low of a number. It's closer to 85.5. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I just checked DraftKings. The number actually has moved to 9 on DraftKings.
Wow. Okay.
9 and 75.5. So 75.5 stayed. So I grabbed Alabama last week right before we started recording at minus 7.
Okay.
I feel good with minus 7. I don't know about 9.
Okay.
But that's where I'm at right now. And like Adam just said, it's still 3 days away. Who knows what happens between now and then?
Right. Yeah, we'll see as it comes out over the weekend or on Monday. But I just hope that Fields is okay. Like, he's not going to be perfect. He took a shot. I mean, that looked like that was brutal. It's only a week in between to bounce back. But I just loved Ohio State, what they did to Clemson. They baited them in. He took 3 long shots, hit them all, and was able to just keep coming back. I went to Penn State. I'm a Big Ten guy. I want to see Ohio State win the game. I don't buy the SEC bullshit. I definitely don't think Bama's defense is good at all. So I'm with you guys. Like, when they asked me, what do you make the number, I thought it was going to be 80 because that's the number you might get the guys, the bad guys to bet under. 75, 75.5, 76. There hasn't been much movement on this total. But if Fields isn't healthy, you will see this line go to 10, and you will see this total crash at least to 72, like quick. There'll be no hesitation in the book movements. It's going to go down fast. So we'll know based on the line alone. You don't have to check anything. Adam, shoot us a text or something, whatever. But you'll know based on the line Fields' status. All right, college football talk done. Last thing before we go, I just want to mention real quick, you don't have to get into it deep, but this is for my boy Sean, and it's a good idea. NFL coaching jobs. What is the best coaching job available right now? The options are Jacksonville, Atlanta, Houston, the LA Chargers, or the New York Jets. Now, we know that Lawrence is going to Jacksonville. We don't know who the coach is. If that guy in Jacksonville gives Urban Meyer $12 million to be the coach, he's out of his mind. But you have to take into consideration, this phone call with him today was like, well, you have to consider who the owner is too, don't you? Like, because the owner's meddling. It's not just the quarterback. And like, who's going to be the coach? I don't know. So I thought this was a good question I would pose to you guys because, this is what we do. Carl, what's the best coaching job for you? I mean, like, you've had the same coach forever, so you don't have to worry about looking for coaches or any of that shit. But If you were a coach, where would you go of these 5 jobs right now?
Yeah, well, newsflash, it's not the Jets. I'd want to go to the Chargers. I mean, they got a young quarterback who I think is going to be a stud. They got Joey Bosa on the other side of the line. I think if you get a good coach who works well with quarterbacks, can bring this kid along, You bring in a strong defensive coordinator. I know he did horrible in Detroit, but you bring Matt Patricia in to be your defensive coordinator in there, you're in the playoffs next year easily, and you're competing for the division, I think.
The guy wears the thing like this. Mine's a pen, but Patricia's is a pencil. The guy better go back to being a coordinator, because I don't think his stint in Detroit was a good thing for him as far as being a head coach.
Yep.
Adam, you've had your share of coaches in Cleveland. You know about how hard it is to replace a coach. Where would you go of these five teams? Which option do you think is best?
I'm going to agree with Carl here. I'm going to say the Chargers are the spot to go. I mean, Herbert looks like the real deal. He looks like a very mature young quarterback in the NFL. They've got a lot of personnel. They've got the new stadium there, SoFi Stadium, that, could be a draw, for free agents and all that. And also, too, you sort of think about the situations for these teams. Jacksonville, okay, you're getting Trevor Lawrence, but also, the Colts, who knows what they do after Rivers, but they're a pretty good team. Tennessee's a good team. Houston, who knows what happens with them. You look at Atlanta, it's tough to go into a division with New Orleans and with Tampa Bay, and even with, however long Brady and, all those guys are going to be down there, Brady and Breeze in that division. I think for the Chargers, the Raiders kind of are what they are. The Broncos are what they are. You got to split with Kansas City and then make your way in as a wild card or win the division. So I think the Chargers would be, the place that I would go if I had my pick of the litter.
Okay. That's the thing that scares me. I got to go against Mahomes and Andy Reid, which feel like they're going to be like Brady and Belichick. They ain't going nowhere. So I got to beat those guys. And I got to start with a young kid who it's going to happen eventually. And like you said, if we could split and just get in as a wild card, okay. But I want to win the division. So I looked at it and I said, you know what? I like Lawrence. I think he's going to be a great pro, but that owner's a goof. Like, he's crazy. He's just a complete jag-off. I don't know what's going on there. The Jets are the Jets. I'm with Carl. There's no way I'm going to coach the Jets. You can see what it does to people. Adam Gase leaves like he's crazy. Forget it. The Chargers seems like the obvious choice, and Houston has Deshaun Watson, who I like a lot and would be like, okay, that's my quarterback. Let's put it together. But they're bringing in all these Patriot guys. They're going to make that. They're going to fuck that up. So for me, it's Atlanta, only because Breeze is on his way out. Brady's on his way out. And if I can get – I don't like Matt Ryan, but I like the possibility of Ryan being there for a transition. If we can get a quarterback that we can build around, sit for a year or two like Rodgers did in Green Bay, we can go. So for me, it would be Atlanta, but – I'm interested, Carl, maybe we can put a poll on Twitter about that under the thing. We'll see which is the best job. We'll go from there. All right. That's going to do it for all of the subjects, all of the talk. We're just going to get to take a minute here at the end. Before we do, I just wanted to give a quick shout out and well wishes and success wishes for all my guys and girls at Sports Grid. Ariel Epstein has been on the show. Jared Smith has been on the show. Matt Peralt has been on this show. All three of them, they're now on Sirius XM 204. So hopefully, we can kind of go back and maybe get, doing more with them, get them back on the show to talk about that. But I just wanted to wish them congratulations going forward and continued success. Also wanted to, shout out Newbie Talks. He's a little bit under the weather. He tested positive. So he's got the COVID. He's okay. He assured us that he's okay. But follow him on Twitter at Newbie Talks. He's doing some good stuff with the Sixers. I don't know if you're familiar with the song. You must listen to the Sixers song. Even you, Carl, you got to admit that guy's doing fun stuff. That follow did the Sixers win on Twitter is fantastic what he's doing. So, and I also wanted to wish Brad Howe at Brad Howell 7, the guy I do the game within the game with, turns 50 on Sunday. And I know he listens to the show. So happy birthday, big dog. Senator, Brad 3 times. Big 5-0. You look 40, so you're all good. All right, fellas, take a minute segment. We're going to go. Carl, this is the part of being the co-host of the show is you get to go first pretty much every week with a take a minute segment before we get to our guest, and then I'll finish and close the show. So you get to take a minute to say whatever you want, starting in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, so we lost one of the great baseball men today or yesterday in Tommy Lasorda, and I don't know if Dave's going to talk about that or not, but if you're not, what a great story you put up on Twitter today. So I encourage everyone, if Dave's not going to talk about it after me, to go and read that story. I'm going to tell my own brush with greatness story about when I was about 11 or 12 years old. I met the man who has the most hits in the history of Major League Baseball, Pete Rose. I was at
Yes.
the Sporting Goods Convention in Chicago. I used to go to every year. He was there, I think, with Wilson Sports, I think was it who he was contracted
Okay.
with. I waited in line for about 45 minutes to an hour to go up and meet him and shake his hand and get his autograph. And he gave me some incredible words of wisdom. He signed his ball in nice blue felt tip marker, held it up, gave it to me and said, "Don't touch it, kid, it'll smudge." And that was it, and moved on to the next one. So sometimes your brush with greatness is great. Sometimes it doesn't go quite as well.
There you go. He's at Carl Haskell, CarlHaskall. That's his Take a Minute with Pete Rose. That's great. Yep. All right, Adam, no pressure. It's been a pleasure having you. The host of ATS Radio, the lead writer at ats.io. I encourage everyone to go on there and follow along with Adam at Skating Tripods in homage to his probably skating days when he didn't chase the puck in high school, but, was able to kind of cross-check those guys in the lower back. It's your turn, sir. You have 1 minute to say whatever the hell it is you want. It starts in 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, since people always ask, At Skating Tripods comes from the beer league team that I used to play on. That was our team name. Our logo was the Shocker, for what it's worth. First thing real quick, along with the work I do over at ATS, we have an ATS app that you can download in the Google Play Store or in the Apple Store. Full article integration from the website. I think it's a really helpful handicapping tool. But what I really wanted to do, speaking of a brush with greatness here, I've been able to chat with you over the last few months. And, everybody knows by now, it's well documented, the health scare that you had, the situation that you had, here this past year. And, one of the things that's meant the most to me being in this business, and you asked about getting my start and all of that, I've met a network of a lot of really good people, a lot of people that, are willing to share their expertise, are willing to share, their thoughts, their philosophies, and just, the playbook that they've come up with, over the course of their careers in this business. And it's an honor to be on this show. It's an honor to be able to talk to you, Dave. And, I really appreciate the friend that you've become to me and the friend that you've become to so many others here in this business.
Well, thank you, sir. That is Adam Burke at Skating Tripods. Yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. It really has. And obviously, like I told you the first time we talked, this is just the beginning rather than, a one-off. Because now that I got the cell phone and I got the Twitter thing, and now I'm going to download the app when we get off the show, I'm going to be constantly bothering you. And if Cleveland wins this week, I might need some brown shit to wear next week on the show because they're going to be a big dog somewhere, and we might have to talk about taking them again next week. But one thing at a time. We'll trade texts on Sunday night. You'll be at home. I'll be at home. We'll be watching the game together that way. All right, my Take a Minute segment starts right now. Carl mentioned it. I wrote the story time, and Adam just chimed in perfectly with it, and I shared it with as many people as I can right now. I post these story times from the book, which has kind of become a really crazy thing to me because I sit there and I think of something and I'll start writing. And I know you as a writer appreciate the craft. Sometimes it just comes. I have to stop what I'm doing and sit down and bang this out and hit send. So I wrote about my experience this past week with a guy named Downtown Benny, who was a staple in downtown sports books forever. And I found out in my travels last weekend downtown to the Circa and to the Golden Nugget, where my whole career in Vegas started, that Benny had passed away. So I wrote a story time about Benny, and it was great. And it talked about all the things that we did. And I wrote him home one night, and the guy was like, he was off, but he was harmless. And he used to sit and scream at screens betting $1 exacta, and a $2 show bet like it was $1 million. So you just never know while you're in the book who you come into contact with. And my story time today, which you can go back and find when you listen to the show, was about Tommy Lasorda and my brush with greatness with him. As an intern with KDKA TV, I was sent over on Memorial Day in 1990 to cover postgame with the Dodgers and Pirates. There was 2 bench clears. Somebody jumped the stand. One of the Pirate fans jumped the stand and tried to get into the dugout at the Dodgers. Everybody was so pissed off. 5-1 lead. The Dodgers blow in the last inning. The Pirates scored 5 runs to win 6-5. I'm in the hallway waiting to go in the clubhouse. I don't have a clue what happened. So I said to the guy, I don't know what to do. The Bonds, Bonilla, Van Slyke, they're all running by me like they won the World Series. I have no idea. I said, let's go talk to Tommy Lasorda. The camera guy's like, kid, what are you talking about? I'm 19. I don't know shit. He's like, I got to go ask him a couple questions. Maybe I'll find out what happened so I can go ask the Pirates. So I walk in, and Tommy Lasorda is sitting there with nothing on except his undershirt. His pants are unbuttoned, and he's got his face down in a pile of salad. And I'm like, do I say anything? I look at the camera guy. He's like, you wanted to come here. So I said, Tommy, can I ask you a couple questions? And he looks up like this. He goes, what do you want, kid? And he's got salad dressing everywhere. And I'm like, can I ask you a couple questions? And he's like, oh, are you old enough to be in here? And he wipes his face. He sits down and gave me 10 minutes. I was shaking. I was going to shit my pants. And I got 10 minutes with Tommy Lasorda. It was unbelievable. And I wrote about it on Twitter. So go find that there. That's my take a minute that lasts 2.5. So.
Whoa. 2.5. That was a 5-minute take a minute there, pal.
Holy shit. Thanks, Reynolds. Over. Bet the over, and when I go take a minute, bet the over in the Tennessee-Baltimore game, and bet the over in the Buffalo-Indy game as well. That's going to do it for the boys. We are going to be out of here. For the show, at GT Cash Consider, follow the show. Go on, leave a review, take a picture of it, send it on the Twitter feed. We're going to compile the different ones that we do. I'm going to organize that better next week. I want to thank Adam Burke for joining us tonight, staying up late in Cleveland. Good luck on Sunday. I don't think you're going to win, but if you do, it's going to be a hell of a story. Carl Haskell, at Carl Haskell on Twitter, the co-host of the show, the social media manager, and whatever else we can come up with. Reynolds producing the show. I am Reynolds 2305, and reminding everybody that my Take a Minute goes over every single week. That's the best bet anywhere you can find on Gambling Twitter. That is it. We are out. We'll talk to you guys next week. Good luck, Steelers.